I have a confession to make. Now, before anybody freaks out, believe me, I'll get to it. I'll get to the reason why. I think anyway. And yeah, just don't freak out yet. Okay. In fact, don't freak out through the entirety of this video. Promise me you'll do that. Okay. Promise me you will not freak out. Okay. Anyway, you guys are listening to Random Radio, and my name is David Bolander, and today we're going to be talking about self-honesty, because it's a lot more complicated than you think. Okay, here, and I'm talking from recent, and I mean very, very recent experience. But anyway, here's my confession. Now, parents, don't freak out. Okay, don't freak out because I'll explain it. Okay. I think I have depression again. Now it's not to the same extent that I've had it before. So for those of you who have been listeners on this channel, I've had depression before, okay? I had it back when I was in 5th grade and I conquered it. Amazing. Flying colors from what I hear. Actually no, not really. It took a second. It took me a second, and you know, it just like everything that is negative in your life, it always lingers. And it's terrible. It's a terrible thing to go through. And it is, and by the way, it was caused by nobody in particular. It was just caused by so many things happening at the same time that I didn't really know how to control. And so, you know, it caused me to do a major retreat, and which, hence depression. Anyway, the thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that I think I've been in denial about having depression, okay? And again, I don't think that's to the same extent that I've had it before, right? It was way, way, way worse than when I had it before. I was thinking suicide. I was doing all the terrible things, you know, not talking to anybody about it. And honestly, back then, I knew I had depression. I knew for a fact I had it, or I was pretty sure I had it. Um, and then you know what happens. Go ahead and go, like, what, how long has it been? Like, it hasn't even been like 5 years. No, it's been somewhere around like 6 years, I think. Anyway, however long it's been, depression strikes again. I think it started this last school year in APUSH, AP US History. Just because so many things were going on at the same time. The church was being extra pushy. You know, I was taking 0-hour seminary. I had just gone through my first, you know, I had just gone through my first sport in like 3 years. That was cross country, and yeah, cross country was okay, but track was not fun. Anyway, and then APUSH, I hated my APUSH teacher, okay? And I'm pretty sure she had it out for me because no matter what I did, I could not get above a C on any assignment that she gave me, or on any essay that she gave me. Maybe that's just an APUSH thing, maybe that's just a me thing, I don't even know. But whatever it is, that was a rough time, okay? And I think that that's what instigated it. Now, um, anyway, so over the summer, I had my first job, which was kind of stressful, and it was not necessarily disappointing, but it was just meh. It was okay, you know. It's a job. I got paid. I wasn't overly happy with it, but who's overly happy with their job anyway? Now, that I usually spend my summers, like, you know, recuperating from the school year, and so I didn't really do that this last summer. And so then at the beginning of the school year, I was doing fine. I was like, okay, new school year, new start. I'm doing great. And I did do great first trimester and most of second trimester. And now in the past like 3 weeks, actually no, well, yeah, mostly in the past 3 or 4 weeks, I've noticed something happening, and I think I think that it was depression. Okay. And again, don't freak out. It's like, I have this under control. Don't you worry about that, okay? Don't worry about this guy who's on the internet talking about mental health who says he has depression. Don't worry about it, okay? Because, I mean, honestly, it's not to the extent that most people think of depression. Like, when people think of depression, I always think of it as, like, you know, you're thinking of suicide, you're super, super withdrawn, you're not talking to anybody, you're, you know, you're totally depressed and sad all the time. But no, for me, it's coming in like waves, right? And here's what I mean by that. Like, I'll have good weeks, like really, really good weeks where I'm pretty sure that that's my normal, where like I'm super productive, I'm super happy to be working on like my personal projects, like the podcast, and then I will have the worst weeks ever. No joke. Like, well, not really. Not really, actually. No. I've had way worse. But anyway, they're like, maybe that's just my brain returning to the average, but like, I feel just so tired and achy, and I don't feel like doing literally anything, and I fall behind on my homework, all that stuff, which is honestly kind of a pain. Um, Now, this I don't think that this depression and I mean I've always viewed it as laziness, or at least over this last school year. Then I've been viewing it as laziness. I'm just like, well, I'm just a lazy person. I just don't do stuff, right? And so that makes me tired that I don't do stuff, which means that I don't do more stuff. I do even less, which then makes me more tired and stuff like that. And while I do think that does have a part to play, I was actually watching a YouTube video, which I will probably link if I remember to. I will link it in the description of this video, by a channel called Psych2Go. It's amazing. It's the best thing ever. They have a great channel. They're psychology YouTubers. It's great. Anyway, so the reason why I think I'm in denial about it is because this has been going on for a while, and I've noticed it's been going on, but I didn't really think anything of it, just because I was like, oh, it always passes, it's just gonna pass again, and it did. But I was watching this video, and they were talking about like, hey, if you're feeling these things, it could still be depression. And I was like, wait a second. Because I took psychology first trimester of this school year, and I remember one of the things that they talked about specifically when we were talking about like PTSD, and I'm not saying I have PTSD, by the way, but anyway, we were talking about like one of the things that we covered was how trauma, like how the brain likes to blot out trauma, right? And how the brain likes to think like it knows that it's gone through trauma, it just doesn't like remembering it, so then it just kind of blots it out of your memory, right? Just because you don't want to remember every little detail of the trauma you went through when you've recovered. And so I think that that's what's kind of happening to me, is where I'm thinking, oh, I know that this isn't depression because I know what depression feels like. But the thing is, whenever I think about that time when I had depression the first time, I can't remember a feeling. I remember words, and I can visualize like words and stuff, but I can't, like, I physically can't get myself to think of a feeling that I was feeling. Like, I wasn't necessarily feeling sad, I was just feeling like empty, I guess. But it wasn't empty either. It was like, it's like white, like just nothingness, right? Nothingness in a good way. It's kind of annoying because it means that now my brain keeps on thinking, you don't have depression. It's you don't have it because I know what it feels like, even though it doesn't. And honestly, and believe me, it took me like half an hour to will myself to start recording this. Like, no joke, just because my brain multiple times just tried to shut it down and say, nope, this is irrational. You're not having depression again. And even if you are, I wouldn't allow it, because it was such a terrible time in my life. And I believe me, I have it under wraps. Okay. I have it not under wraps. Sorry. I have it under control. I am currently working on everything, which is not a good thing to do, but I am working on everything I possibly can in order to, mitigate it and mitigate its effects on me, including being aware of it and accepting that it's happening. Because before, I didn't really, well, like, I accepted that I had depression, but I didn't really accept the full extent of that. I didn't understand, whether it was a lack of understanding or I just didn't want to accept the fact that, hey, now all of a sudden I'm sad all the time and I don't like talking to people anymore, and I don't like doing any of the stuff I used to like to do. And that partially had to do with me being in 5th grade and me being a child and me not wanting to do stuff. generally. Actually, no, it more had to do with like my changing interests. But anyway, I didn't have like, I didn't want to do stuff, right? Because I was like, oh, that sounds like a lot of like energy, that sounds like a lot of effort, a lot of energy. And honestly, it is a lot of energy. When you have depression, everything is like three times the energy cost. If you think about it, like getting up, first off, you have to wake up. You have to get out of your dreams. You have to wake up and not be groggy about it. And then you have to will yourself, and it is willing yourself out of bed so that you can face this day that you view as the most terrible thing ever. That's not my current view. Okay, that's past me view. My current view is, well, I kind of have to do this thing, and I don't really want to. It's more of like an inconvenience thing. But the reason why I say I have depression is because, it comes in waves, and the fact that, it feels so terrible when it does hit, it feels just terrible, terrible, terrible. And anybody who's had depression can attest to this. It feels like crap to have depression, especially after you recover. Like, if I don't know, and like, sorry, I'm trying to formulate words into this. Let's put this into a metaphor, okay? Let's say that you have a ball, right? And I was originally thinking of this beforehand, by the way. And I was thinking I was going to put on a cool graphic, and now I'm thinking that sounds like a lot of work for it being 8:30 already, and I don't feel like doing stuff. But anyway, imagine that you have like, whether it be like a ball or a circle on like a white screen, right? Like black outline circle on a white screen. That's you, right? And imagine little spaces of it colored in, like not all of it colored in, but like a good chunk of it is colored in just in random colors, right? Bright colors that are like all of your different emotions, all your different feelings, all your different interests, right? Now, now draw like a purple or like a dark purple, dark blue, or like a black squiggly. That's like, it's like 1/16 of the size, I'd say, of the overall circle. Just draw that in, not in the center, but like off put a little bit. And so, how my recovery with depression has been is basically, it goes. I pushed it underneath underneath the surface of that circle, right? And then occasionally it's like a volcano, and it likes to just pop out the side, right? And then I have to go back and push it back in because I can't remove it. That's the thing about depression, is that once it's there for life, right? It will not go away. And what it does is that it likes to push itself out. It likes to make itself known, which is a real pain to deal with. Which, I mean, like, it's a heck of a lot better than having the entire circle covered in whatever it is, right? But anyway, it's kind of like that, right? Like when I first had depression, everything was that black squiggle. But nowadays, then it's more like the 1/16 size squiggle just trying to push itself out every once in a while, and me just having to, push it back in. And for me, I'm realizing that has been depression, and what I used to think of it as was laziness, and that's not what it was. In reality, I'd imagine that was, I'm imagining now that it is depression, and I need to keep an open mind to that. And just, I don't know. I guess the main point I'm trying to say on this podcast, or in this episode, is just say, your brain lies to you, I guess, is what I'm saying here. But when you're done, then, like, if you're having depression right now, and you're having it for the first time especially, then just know it gets a heck of a lot better, okay? It gets a lot better and easier to understand and to go through the more you do it, right? Or the more that you recover from it. But it never truly goes away, and you're always going to have to deal with it, and that's just a fact. I'm not saying that in a bleak sense. I'm saying that in like it gives you something to do, right? It gives you something to do, and it is honestly really, really, really easy to just push past it. It's a lot easier to push past after you've already gone through it. In all honesty, it's just figuring out what it is and what, and like, you know, I didn't realize that it was depression, but now I'm realizing that that's exactly what it is. Um, and I guess I don't know. I don't even know what the point of this thing is anymore. But anyway, I guess take all that as you will. Know that I am doing okay, right? I am not like thinking suicide. I am not being super harmful to myself. I am not addicted to much of anything. If anything, I'm addicted to the screen. But I don't really know how I would measure that. Well, actually, I do, but I see no point in it. I'm not, I'm not hurting super super bad like I was. I'm honestly doing okay. It's just like from what I've heard from like other people who've had addiction, like my dad. I don't think he wants me to share that right now, but my dad used to have an addiction. I'm not going to specify what kind or to the severity, but he had an addiction. And he was telling me one time when my parents were afraid that I was getting really really badly into the same addiction, that it never goes away. It just kind of sits with you, and you always have to deal with it whenever something in that realm of thought comes up, right? And so then you have to deal with it constantly. And that's kind of how depression is. And just in the sense that like you can't really get fully rid of it. Like don't like if it comes back, don't think, "Oh, I failed to realize that this is what it was and now it's too far along." No. The reality of the situation is, it's always there. You can't get rid of it. And and that's not a bad thing, really. It makes you stand out a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I kind of want to be a psychologist when I grow up, is because I can kind of relate to people. Like a lot of my friends who are like depressed, going through depression now because we're teenagers. A lot of my friends, or a few of my friends at least, who have been going through depression, then they've told me before that like, man, you're a real light. Like you're a light at the end of the tunnel here. You're something that helps me keep going. And I really appreciate them hearing that, and that's something that sets me apart, and I'm sure that's something that will set them apart when they get a bit older, and something that sets them apart now. And even though nobody can see that they have depression except me, or except their friends, then, it's just a very interesting concept. And I don't, again, I have no idea where this podcast episode has gone or where it's going, but take all this as you will, and take it as a thought, right? Don't take it as this is the end of you. Take it as, oh, this is reality, and this is what I have to work with, And that sounds no better than what I was just comparing it with, but just, I don't know, take this with whatever amount of salt that you will. And I am David Bolander. I'm glad I could get this off my chest. As I've said in the past, this is my outlet. And I'd say that everybody needs their outlet, whether it be like art, music, friends, family, therapy. Honestly, therapy is amazing. Medication, not overdosing on medication, but, regular amounts of medication that are prescribed by your doctor, is great. It's amazing. And this is me in the winter of 2023 explaining how I think I have depression, but I don't really know because my brain won't let me figure out what depression feels like. But anyway, have a good night, day, whenever you're watching this or listening to this, really. And have a good time and be safe. Be safe, and if you need therapy, get therapy, because it's worth it. And I guess that's me signing off. Thank you guys for listening.